Salutations, YouTube! I'm back. I got 5 things to talk about. And first of all, I forgot to mention this last time because I think last time I did it, one of these videos, I was like super, like, not hungover, but super, whatever happens after you have edibles the night before. You're not kind of hungover, you're just kind of blah. So I was not thinking all that well. But tonight I am, because it's the weekday and I'm with it. I'm together. So last 2 videos ago, I wore one of my softball shirts from when I was younger. And I was like, we're going to do a series of all my sports team shirts going forward. But then last time I did this video, it wasn't one of my sports jerseys, but it was kind of still sports related because as you may know, if you saw some of the pictures on under my community banner or whatever it's called, my ball hockey team, we won the Fall League B Division Championship finally. After so many times being the bridesmaid, we won it all, and it was so nice. So we got, every time you win, you get either a hat or a shirt or whatever. This time it was long sleeve shirts that said BHI Fall Division Champs or something like that. So I wore that one last time because I had been wearing it for like 4 or 5 days in a row once we won it. And I wanted to wear that one because it was in the moment. It was that time that we won. So that's so we broke up the jersey thing. I had just started the video before for that, and it's also Christmas coming up in exactly a week. Christmas Day is exactly a week away. And going through my closet looking for my baby blanket, which I use sometimes when I'm feeling anxious or sad or whatever, and I couldn't find it, and I was in a panic, and I was ripping apart my closet and stuff like that, and I came across this Nirvana ugly sweater themed Christmas shirt, which I didn't even know I had. I don't know if somebody stashed it up there because they were going to give it to me as a gift, or if I had bought it and forgot about it. But either way, I found it, and I'm going to wear it for this video because we got Christmas coming up. So next video, I swear, unless something else momentous comes along, we're going to get back to my jersey run. But that's neither here nor there. But I just wanted to clarify that because I made such a big deal out of my Cubbies jersey the first time. And we were moving on to the next one, but then we didn't. So that is that. Now, we got a few movies this time. We're really movie heavy this time around, but we're going to start this run with a book. Firefly, What Makes Us Mighty. This is the 7th novel in the Firefly expanded universe. They try and write these books to be like lost episodes of the show, and they do a pretty good job of it. In this one, the crew of Serenity is going to a world called Carrie. They are shipping some goods to the Duke that rules the planet. The goods are all sealed up. Mal and crew don't know what they are, but they've been assured the goods are on the up and up. Everything's cool. So they arrive at Carrie, deliver the shipment. The Duke is, I can't remember his name because it's kind of a Farron 4 or something like that. The Duke's all pumped. He got his shipment. He seems like a really nice, amiable guy. His court is full of food and drink, and everybody seems happy. So Inara is actually on the planet for a few days as doing companion business with somebody. So the crew has no real option but to wait around the planet for a few days, waiting for Inara to be done. And while they're doing that, the Duke is like, oh, stay here, eat all our food, blah, 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 have a great time. And I probably have more work for you if you want to, continue these arrangements. We can probably, hook you up with a shipment on your way out as well. And Mal is like, oh my God, this is too good to be true. But Zoe is thinking, this is too good to be true, right? So something has Zoe's hackles up about this Duke and about this situation, but everybody else, all the other crew, seems like, nah, he's a good guy. It's all good. Like, let's just enjoy some downtime because we so rarely have a chance to enjoy that. So the crew settle in the first night. They all get wasted. They're hungover the next day. They have fun. Still, something's up with Zoe. Something's not sitting right. And over the course of the next little while, they start to realize there's unrest outside the city walls. the local population outside the city has complaints about the Duke. Like, he doesn't take our he's trying to force all these different methods of farming and all these other things on us that don't work. We have better ways that'll make us more prosperous. They're struggling to eat and survive, and the Duke passes it off as, no, I'm trying to help them, but they just won't listen, and blah blah blah. So there's something going on between the local populace and the Duke's court, and also they start to get wind of the Duke not really taking women seriously, and the Duchess, she's a hard one to read, but they can see that something's up with that relationship as well. So eventually it's revealed that there's actually a resistance growing against the Duke within his own house, that want to see him displaced, because he's actually quite a vile piece of work. And eventually this is brought to the forefront for Mal and the rest of the crew, and they're like, at this secret meeting, Mal and everybody else on the Firefly is brought into this secret meeting of the resistance, saying, like, we can't do this on our own, like, you guys are here, can you help us out? And so the end of the book is kind of like a what do you call that, when a mutiny against the Duke by this resistance movement, who want to put in a system of government that's going to benefit the whole planet, not just the Duke and his inner circle there. So that's kind of the story of this book, and it was actually really cool because it all takes place in one kind of spot. Like, usually the crew of the Firefly are flying around the universe and they're going here, there, everywhere, but this one all took place, mostly within that the confines of the Duke's palace and stuff. A few little sojourns here and there, but mostly all in the one place, which I thought was a different kind of speed for a Firefly book. It could be one of my favorites yet. Sorry, Monday, back at work, I'm so tired, and today was an easy day. But yeah, one of my favorite books of the Firefly series so far. I really enjoyed it, and there's kind of some hints dropped about Inara wanting to leave the crew of the Firefly. So I'm not sure if this story was supposed to take place not that long before she actually did. But yeah, it's always cool to see kind of the little Easter eggs they give you about stuff that happens in the show and stuff. I really like that kind of stuff. So great book, great series of books, great series of TV. It's only one season if you've never seen it before, so you're not investing too much time if you haven't seen it. It's amazing. If you like Joss Whedon and his stuff, like, we started with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I love that fucking show as a kid. Oh my god. And I bought all the DVD sets for the seasons later on because they had them on super sale at HMV, and I was like, yeah, please. And I never really watched Angel when I was younger, but we bought that as well because it was on sale, and not as good as Buffy, but still a really good show. And then Firefly is right up there with Buffy. It only had the one season, but it is so good. It's like Star Wars meets the Wild Wild West sort of thing. It's just so good if you've never seen it before. Next up, let's start with the movie train, shall we? The Super Mario Brothers movie. Oh, I finally saw this. Good movie, and what I really liked about it, only an hour and a half long. Remember in the 80s and shit, in the early 90s? Everything was an hour and a half long. That was the standard. No matter what type of movie, fucking hour and a half. You didn't sit down and be like, holy shit, we're 3 hours in and it's not even close to being over. What the fuck? I don't like that. Other than Titanic. I remember even going to see one of the, not Civil War, one of the Avengers movies. One of them that was really long, and I fell asleep in the theater because I was like, holy fuck, like, great. I loved all the Marvel movies, but even big glossy action adventure comic book movies like that, you can get more to the point and cut out some of the chaff. Like, there's no reason they need to be pushing 3 hours long, right? People say you can't have too much of a good thing. I think that's mostly true, but yeah, sometimes more is less. Less is more. Less is more. Fool me once. Anyways, in Super Mario Brothers, Mario and Luigi are brothers that like to plumb. We all know that. And they just recently started up their own business. They got their own commercial on TV, much to the disappointment of their father, who thinks they should stick with whatever the family business is. I forget what it is now. But they want to go off and be plumbers, and he's like, meh. And so they're trying to get a break and get their name out there. So on the news, they see like there's a big water main break in the city or something like that, and it's causing heaps of flooding. So they're like, let's get on it, show these guys how to do it, and then boom, we're in. So they go under the streets into the sewers and whatever, and they're looking for the problem, and they find these pipes. But when they go in these pipes, they are magical warp pipes, and we all know where green magical warp pipes go. To the Mushroom Kingdom. At least that's where it takes Mario. Luigi, on the other hand, goes to the Dark Lands, I believe it's called, the lands which Bowser rules over. So Luigi is lost in this evil land. Mario lands in the Mushroom Kingdom, meets up with Toad, who takes him to meet Princess Peach. Princess Peach was only a tiny little infant when she came to the Mushroom Kingdom, and she was raised by the Toads and all that stuff. And she's the one who rules over this Mushroom Kingdom. However, the Mushroom Kingdom, as usual, is being attacked by Bowser. He wants Peach for his wife. It's a classic Mario story. We've all heard it before. We've all played it before. So the Princess Peach is wanting to enlist the aid of the Kongs, so the Donkey Kongs, the monkey men, if you will, to help repel Bowser. And so they do so, and only after Mario is able to, they first have to come over some adversity, as Mario has to defeat Donkey Kong in battle in order for Cranky Kong, the king of the Kongs, to agree to help Princess Peach. So they secure the Kongs, and they're like, cool. And they take the fight to Bowser and stuff like that. But things go wrong. Mario and Luigi, I think, get lost. And I think what happens next is Bowser confronts Peach and is like, you got to marry me or I'm going to tear this motherfucking kingdom down. And she's like, she sees no alternative. Their attack with the Kongs failed. She's like, I guess I have to do it to save my people, right? So she agrees to marry Bowser, and Mario and Luigi must scramble to get their shit together, get back to the kingdom, and help save the day, save Peach from being married to this giant dinosaur asshole, and basically from a whole bunch of people dying. So yeah, it's a classic Mario story. There's nothing surprising about this movie. It's well done. The animation's amazing. They got good voice talent, and it's a good watch. But it's just nothing outside of the usual. I didn't know if this was going to be like a straight up kind of classic Mario tale, or if they're going to try and go a different kind of route with it, with a different kind of storyline. So either way, I was fine, because it's been so long since we had a Super Mario Brothers movie. Remember the one from the 90s? But yeah, good movie. Worth a watch. Nothing groundbreaking, but worth a watch. Next up, been wanting to see this one for a while too. That Mario movie was 2023, obviously. And so is The Evil Dead Rise. The Evil Dead series, Army of Darkness, all that shit. Oh my God, so good. So this is also 2023 movie, like I said. And it opens up, if you've never seen the Evil Dead series, go watch them. It's so good. I'm not going to give you any backstory on this. I'm going to assume you know it. But this movie starts off with kind of a brief sequence where these two girls, Jessica and shit, I forget her name now. Her cousin, I forget her name, as well as Jessica's boyfriend Caleb, are at like this lakefront cabin, much like the one in the original Evil Dead. And they're, Caleb, Jessica's boyfriend, and Jessica's cousin, I forget her name, are down at the dock kind of doing a little squabbling because Jessica's not feeling well and she's up in bed. So her cousin goes up to see her after arguing with Caleb, and Jessica's kind of on the bed, but then she starts talking like all possessed like, and the other girl's like, what the fuck is happening? And then she kind of eventually scalps, cuts the top of her head right off, and the girl runs down to the dock to find Caleb, and he's like, what the fuck happened? And then Jessica comes down and she's all like, bleh, and so then she cuts off Caleb's head and throws him in the lake, and then she eventually goes in the lake and goes after Jessica as well, and at the end we just see her kind of hovering above the lake like a possessed deadite, which is exactly what she is. So we then flash forward to the day before, and I think we're in Los Angeles at kind of this apartment complex that is going the way of the dodo. I think they're kind of kicking everybody out because something's about to happen. So there's a family there, a single mother named Ellie. Yeah, I think it's Ellie, and she has three kids. Oh shit, now I forget their names. Cassie, Bridget, and Danny, maybe? Yeah, Danny being the oldest and Cassie being the youngest. And she's a tattoo artist, and we just see their kind of daily life going on with the kids arguing and her giving the one daughter grief about something, blah, blah, blah. It's just everyday kind of life going on. That's when Ellie's sister Beth, who's a guitar technician, shows up and is like, "Oh, hey, I need some help. I'm pregnant," and blah blah blah. And so then they're having a family moment and all this kind of thing. So Ellie sends the kids out to get pizza, and while they're gone, actually as they're coming back, an earthquake hits, and everybody's like, "What the fuck?" After. But the kids are down in the parking garage with the pizza, and Danny notices this crack in the parking lot ground in the asphalt, and he's like, "Hey, there's something down here." So he slips down, and it's an old bank vault, and so he starts exploring it and finds this tomb or something. Not a tomb because it's a bank vault, not a cemetery, but some sort of weird little chest in this chamber, and inside of it is the book. You know the book, right? The book. He takes it, and he also takes these records and some other stuff, and so he's all excited about this find. He's like, maybe this will help Mom pay for, us to get a new place, whatever, because times are tight. So they end up going back upstairs, and Danny tries to open up this book with Bridget. He can't do it. Finally, they get it open, and then he starts playing these records, which is like a priest talking about the book and trying to translate it, blah, blah, blah. And eventually, he does start reading some passages from the book, and that's what summons the Deadites. Yes, the Deadites are back. So one of them possesses Ellie, and she ends up basically trying to murder her whole family. And they eventually get her trapped out. At first, it seems like she's just sick. So like her family's trying to take her to the hospital, get her help, but with the earthquake, like all the staircases have all crumbled and they can't get out. So eventually, when Ellie comes to, they find her murderous, and she tries to kill them all. So they end up locking her in the hallway and kind of holing up inside the apartment. But the Deadites are a resourceful, clever folk, and Ellie ends up getting back in, and one by one the family starts falling and they get turned into Deadites until it's just a couple of them left, and they try to escape. And at the end of the movie, when the couple of them do get out, we see Jessica from the pre-scenes in the movie come down the elevator in this apartment building into the parking garage where the last horrific scene takes place, and notices all the gore and goes like, "What the fuck happened?" She must have slept through the whole damn thing. And that's when she gets possessed, and which leads us back into that opening sequence of the movie. So I really enjoyed the movie. It was just kind of like not a reboot, because it's not the exact same story as the original. It's just, and it's not a prequel like so many franchises are into prequels these days. It's just a story that takes place way after, involving the Deadites. We see where the book ended up, trapped in this vault, which gets cracked open, sort of thing. It's just a cool future story from when Evil Dead started all those years ago, back in the, I want to say 80s, but I think the first one might have even been, late 70s or something. So, but anyway, if you've never seen any of the Evil Deads, watch them all. Evil Dead 2, which I think is just a remake, Army of Darkness, this one, plus all the other. Bruce Campbell is the guy that stars in these movies, and he's amazing. My Name is Bruce is an awesome movie. Bubba Hotep is amazing. All of the Bruce Campbell movies, just watch them. You'll be glad you did. Honestly. Next up, I've been looking for this one for a while. Finally found it on eBay. Big Top Pee-wee. That's right, Big Top Pee-wee. This was the follow-up to 1985's Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Not nearly as good as that original one. The original Pee-wee's Big Adventure was directed by Tim Burton, his very first movie directing, and you could tell it was a Tim Burton movie. It was such a weird, wonderful kind of movie. And this one doesn't have that same kind of vibe. Now, it is a different kind of story as well, but it just doesn't have what the first movie did. The story of it is, and this one was made in 1988, so 3 years after the original Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So Pee Wee Herman is now living in this kind of very rural town, very small town, almost looks like a Wild West kind of town. And he lives on this little farm on the outskirts of town. What the fuck is that? And he has a pig named Vance who can talk, and who is actually Pee Wee's assistant, because Pee Wee's doing experiments in his greenhouse about all these formulas he's working on, all this science about growing fruit and vegetables into these giant sizes to help, the hunger problem and all that kind of thing. So we're seeing a different side of Pee Wee Herman, aren't we, in this movie? Oh shit! Oh no! So yeah, he's got this going on, and every day he meets this girl named Winnie for lunch. She's a school teacher, but she kind of won't give Pee Wee she won't give him a little sugar here and there, which is kind of weird because eventually we learn that she's actually his fiance. so Pee Wee's trying to score, but he can't, and he's got this weird situation going on with his woman. And when we see him go into the small town, none of the townsfolk like him. Every store he goes into, they're like, "You fucking idiot, get out of here, Pee Wee," blah blah blah. Nobody likes him. So eventually, while he's in town, the sheriff comes into the store where Pee Wee's squabbling with some of the locals, and goes, "Everybody board things up, we got a storm coming in." So Pee Wee's like, "Boy," and he eventually gets back to his farm. The shutters are blowing around. He's trying to get all the animals down into the cellar beneath his farmhouse, and he eventually does. But when the storm stops and they surface, they find a circus has been blown into Pee Wee's yard. So the circus is run by a guy named Mace Montana, and so Pee Wee makes friends with Mace and is like, "You guys can stay here, we can get everything fixed up, blah blah blah." So they get to work, saving all the animals and attractions and equipment from the circus, and Mace really appreciates the work that Pee Wee's done for him. But the best part of this circus blowing in is that Pee Wee falls for their star attraction, a girl named Gina's her name, who's like a trapeze kind of artist sort of thing, and they end up spending some time together and really liking each other. And just as they're having their first kiss, Winnie comes in and witnesses it, and it's like, "Pee Wee Herman, we're done." And so then he goes and finds her and whatever, and is like, "I'm sorry," but blah blah blah. And so then they break up. But in the meantime, Gina's super pissed at Pee Wee and won't give him the time of day. But eventually he gets her to come around. He's like, "I just went and broke it off with Winnie. Like, I love you, blah blah blah." So then they are good. But there's a couple things going on. Pee Wee's kind of lost his sense of purpose a little bit, and he wants to perform in the circus with these people and be a big deal sort of thing. So that's one thing that's going on. The other thing is the townsfolk in this little town are so stuffy that they're basically like want to tar and feather all the circus people. Like, the circus people get things up and running, and they're like, "We can't wait to show this town our show, blah blah blah." And the townsfolk don't want to see the show, and they make it abundantly clear that they don't. So the circus people are all upset and whatever, right? So in the end, Pee Wee has this great idea. In his greenhouse, where he does all of his experiments on fruit and vegetables, he has one magical elixir that actually shrinks things instead of grow them. So he's working on a little tree bush thing that actually grows hot dogs. So he uses this potion on the hot dog tree and shrinks them into cocktail weenies. And then he's like, "Oh." So then after the townsfolk kind of voice their displeasure to the circus people, he goes back to the store and he's like, "I agree with you guys. You know what? You're right all along. Like, I'm an idiot and they're stupid and blah, blah, blah. Let me celebrate with you guys." So then he gives them all the cocktail weenies, which have this serum in them, which shrinks all of the old, stupid townspeople into their children-like selves who definitely want to go see the circus. So in the end, they get to put on the circus. Pee Wee gets to perform. Everybody's happy. Movie's over. It's a really abrupt ending. Like, it's such a weird movie, and not weird like the original one, which was so weird good. This one's just plain weird. I loved watching it. I love that I have it now, because growing up in the 80s and early 90s as youngsters, Pee Wee's Playhouse was a big deal for us. We watched that show relentlessly. Pee Wee's Big Adventure was a masterpiece. So Pee Wee Herman was actually a pretty big part of our childhood. We had many big parts of our childhood. There's so much cool stuff in the 80s and 90s. but Pee-wee was just one of those magical slices of the overall pie, right? So although Big Top Pee-wee wasn't nearly as good as Pee-wee's Big Adventure and was pretty ridiculous, it was still awesome in its own way, and I'm glad I got to see it all these years later because it was very hard to find. Um, and yeah, if you ever want to watch it, I don't know if this bro's got any more DVDs on eBay, but I'm sure it's got to be streaming somewhere. But the things I love the most in the world, I like to own. I don't like to rely on paying this company 10, 15 bucks a month for the rest of my life just in order to watch this movie, right? So that's how I roll, and that's why I have no money. Anyways, last up, a video game for the PS5, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands was based on, if you know the Borderlands video games, Tiny Tina, a little character you come across in said games. She's this tiny little munchkin of a girl who's got a foul mouth and is grossly violent, and I love everything about her. So this game is her own game. There was one that came before it. I forget the name of it. Yeah, but there was one before this. This is kind of a follow-up. In it, it's based, like, you play a character within one of those like dice role-playing games sort of thing. That Tiny Tina is kind of like the like the dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons, that sort of thing. Like she calls all the shots and rolls the dice and creates all the action sort of thing. So you take on a character within this role-playing game known as, you are the newbie. So there's two other characters I think you align with. One guy who's voiced by Andy Samberg, which is funny, and then a girl who is voiced by Wanda Sykes, which is also funny. So you're part of this little crew, and you're facing off against this guy called the Dragon Lord, this evil presence who, at the start of the game, gets imprisoned for centuries or something like that, but then he is released, and then that's when you've got to pick up the mantle and try and lay this fiend low again. If you watch my gameplay videos, I only played a small number of sessions of this game because it just wasn't what I expected. It's too bad because the Borderlands games are so good and so addictive that I was expecting the same sort of thing with this game. But and I like the premise of it. Like, I love the Tiny Tina character. I love the general look of the Borderlands games, which this one had, like the kind of weird outlines on things. Just a really cool artistic style. And but this one, I don't know, it just didn't have it. I found it very disjointed. The game was always like, the map made no sense to me. I never knew where I was. I oftentimes in a mission never knew what the hell I was actually supposed to be doing, and if I did, how to get there. The weapons system I found really confusing. It was just too complicated. And then finally I got stuck in this guy's cabin. I was just little and he was big and everything, and I just couldn't figure out how the fuck to get out of there. Even Googling it on the web and stuff like that, I was just like, you know what, I can't figure it out, and you know what, I've just lost interest in this game sort of thing. So I just stopped playing it, not all that long into it. So that was very disappointing because, like I said, this game had so much potential and I loved the premise of it. Being a character within the role-playing game, I thought was something kind of fresh and neat, but just the execution behind it was not what I was expecting. I don't want to say that the game execution was bad or off, because I think a lot of people probably get where they were going and have no problems playing it, but it just wasn't my style, and I found that just kind of sucked the life out of it for me, so to speak. So that's why I stopped playing. Maybe one day I'll get back to it, but I doubt it. So anyways, those are the 5 things. Very movie heavy, and we've got a lot more movies to watch. So over the Christmas break, we're going to be off for a couple weeks, so there might be, I might have another one of these videos fairly quickly over the break, because we'll probably be watching some movies and doing some stuff like that. So yeah, you may not have to wait that long for the next one, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Eh. Meow.